Okay, can you hear me now? Hopefully that's coming through. Thank you for letting me know, Mark, and for you, Chuck. I really appreciate you letting me know that. So if you can hear something, go ahead and let me know. And I'll start again. I've just been waffling away to myself up to this point. Got the sound. Excellent. It's Chuck still saying no sound, still shut sound. But Michael's saying I got sound. Good to hear from you guys. Right, so I'm going to assume there's some sound now. And Chuck, if you still don't hear anything, do let me know. Hello and welcome. My name is John Cashew Rice. I have the pleasure to be your host for this webinar. And we're exploring this important topic about weight loss and how the mind really does make a difference. And just before we get going, if I sound a little bit gravelly, like I could sing the blues, then uh, sound coming and going for some people. Let's carry on and see if the sound. Should I say it? Okay, I've got some people that can hear you. Yes, we're all on board. Okay, excellent. So there's four ways to become wise. One is to live a long life. Two, travel through many lands. Three, to read good books, and I highly recommend it. You'll never know what you're going to learn from reading books. Four is to converse with good friends. Now that's the nicest. And one of the things I will say here is the people you mix with will make all the difference to your quest to gaining your ideal weight and achieving what you want to achieve. So we have an opportunity here to really make that difference and to connect with each other. So, talking about connecting with each other, one of the things I'm going to suggest is that we just take a moment to turn off everything in the background. That includes your email, Skype, iTunes, Angry Birds. I don't know if that's still popular. So, silence your phone, close your doors. This is time for you and I to connect together. And I want this time to be focused on. It's out of respect for each other here. And as we go through, if you've got any questions at all, we've got a box where I think most of you now discovered where you can leave messages. And I think most people can now hear me. Some can't see me. I've got the PowerPoint up at the moment. I'm going to come back and forth between the PowerPoint and hopefully we're on track. So, what are we going to be exploring for this webinar? What are our goals? So we'll start to discover the thinking behind how we start to take back control. And over the years, I've been collecting so much information around this subject on two levels. One is I've worked one on one with hundreds of people to help them take back control of their life. And with that, that was their mainly a lot to do with their weight issues. And when you take back your life and regain the weight that you want to be, your healthy weight, what then happens is other areas of your life become easier. Now, you're still going to have challenges and problems. That's just life. But it's going to be something that you have conquered and makes all the difference. So, where to start? What to do? I have so much information that I would love to share with you. So, we've got to start somewhere. So, we're going to start with how can we fail at losing this weight? And that will give us insights into why our thinking is really important to this. And then how to approach the eating. And let's talk about the hunger levels. And that would be a good starting place. And I'd like to leave opportunities for questions and answers. We do have a live training coming up in the new year. It's a brand new training. So I put together an offer just for you guys, and we'll roll that out. Okay, so excellent. Let's move on. So, very briefly, who am I? This is one of the philosophical questions of life, but let's not get too philosophical here. So, my name is John Cashew Rice. I'm recognized independently as an NLP master trainer, and I've worked in personal development and business development for many, many years. I live in a lovely place called Chichester. I have 5 children that keeps me very busy, and I've got a grandson, a dog, and I have struggled with my weight over the years. And I'll share with you where I think some of that came from in a moment. So let's check. Are you in the right place? If you sense there's something missing about losing weight, because there's so much information out there, and it has been shown that pretty much any system works for losing weight. But how do we keep it off? How do we achieve what we want to achieve? And you want to finally take control of your life. And this is one of the things I've indicated, that when you take control of one area of your life, that shows up in other areas of your life. You want more from life. So it's not necessarily just about losing some weight. And it's not about necessarily just looking better. You want to feel better. You want to have more energy. You want to be vibrant. And you want to take this positive stance in life. If you feel like you've tried everything, when we say that, we feel like you've tried everything and that you're not getting anywhere. Well, this could be the missing part because everything starts inside your head with your thinking. Take control of your thinking, and then the diet and the exercise and all those wonderful things we need to do become a lot easier. So if you're excited about the possibility of change and starting to get somewhere, and at the same time being realistic about that change, not taking some artificial number, some artificial day, but deciding this is it. This is the change you're after. Now, if you're just looking for a magic wand, abracadabra, to fix all your problems, well, you're probably in the wrong place. Because if I had a magic wand that could do that, then, you know, would be taking over the world. Well, what what we're really after is what works, what is realistic, and how can we make the changes today that will have a long-term impact. Now, if you're reluctant to put the work in, yes, coming back to the magic wand thing, you're going to have to do something. You really are going to have to do something. So if you're reluctant to do something to make a change in your life, you're probably not in the right place. So if you're not willing to change the way you think and to paraphrase, I didn't think I said that right, paraphrase what Albert Einstein said. If you think in the same, always think in the same way, act in the same way, have the same habits and have the same behaviors, but expect different results, that's a sign of madness. Okay, let me come back onto the screen just to reconnect with you guys because PowerPoint's okay. There we go. Hopefully you can now see me. Hiya, guys. Right, so what you did see was my chubby little face there. Just a little bit of background of where I come from and I think what caused me to struggle with weight is my parents are hippies. Love and peace, man, and everything that went with that. So potentially I could have had a very wild upbringing. But instead, because I went to places like Stonehenge, when Stonehenge, the police stayed out of it, and my parents would be going, "You're too lively. Have a brownie. That should quiet you down." So potentially, I should have had a wild upbringing, and I could have, but I turned out to be a very shy, introverted boy, and we didn't have a lot. I had very low self-esteem, and learning issues, and all sorts of things going on in my life, and it really did affect me. So what we didn't have a lot of was things. My parents made my presents, made my clothes. So for Christmas, I'll often, we'd have homemade presents, which now I really appreciate. I kind of really wish I kept some of those things. But at the time, when you're little and you want the $6 million man action figure, doesn't quite cut it. But from there, from having a lack of a lot of things, and I'm not saying that we went without food or was ever really sort of starving hungry, but we didn't have a lot. Most of the food went on to drugs. And from there, think I developed this obsession around food where because we didn't have a lot and I would want to have it and I would overeat and hence my weight would balloon up, come down. So even now I have a tendency to kind of want to eat a lot. And we see that emotional connection, which is not so much a cry for love, but I think it possibly connected to that type of thing really affected me late into my adult life. And it wasn't until I started to get down to some of those key areas and really appreciate what my parents did for me that I could move on from there. So, like I say, it got to a point whereas my my weight was going up. And I think at my heaviest, I would have just been just under sort of 15 stone, which for my frame is quite a bit. It wasn't quite 15 stone, but I was getting there. And I kind of ignored it. As you do, I kind of denied that I was put on weight. And in fact, I find it hard to find any photos of me around about that time, which is a telltale sign that part of me knew. And it was quite a shock to discover I was overweight, to be fair. So I had to do something about it. And I experimented with lots and lots of different things, like we all do. And one of the things that I then had to do was work on this. And that's what I do for a living. I'm a trainer. I travel around the world. And one of the things that really kickstarted for me, my energy levels were dropping. And it takes a lot of energy to do this type of stuff. So, so you can see where that's come from and how it affected me. And even with all the knowledge I had, it took me a while just to accept those things in my life. And even though I was helping other people, I still wanted to do something for myself. So we see that's why I start the webinar off saying that this comes from me helping other people and also having to do it for myself. Because I'm a big believer in you ought to walk your talk, not mumble your stumble. So so that's a little bit about my background and where I got to from here. So okay, I'm going to flip back over to the slides. Let's have a bit of variety here. And so that way you don't have to look at my ill face. So let's have a quick question. So you probably notice that pretty much any weight loss program that you come across will make this promise. It will claim that you can lose 10 pounds within 10 days. Also, so here's the question. Where are those 10 pounds coming from? So type in the box your answer there and let's see where we can start to discover where they're from. So why can pretty much any weight loss program, regardless of what it is, claim that you can lose 10 pounds within 10 days, which is true, you can. So who knows the answer? Type it in now. Now, there is a short delay on this. So as I'm speaking, what happen is then you'll think about it. Then a few of you will type it in. And then it just takes a little while for it to show up on my side. Okay. So where is it coming from? I'm sure several of you know, because I know there's a few of you online that work with people with who are looking to get to that ideal weight. Okay, so the answer is water weight. Yeah, we kind of knew that one, and glycogen. So what is that? That's an energy within that water. Well, within the muscles and in the water. That is, as you stop eating it, you don't get your normal energy input. Your body essentially goes, quick, let's use the glycogen as a quick reserve for our energy. And that's why pretty much any weight loss program can claim that you'll lose 10 pounds within 10 days. So you don't necessarily lose any fat, but you will use up this energy storage, which is roughly about 7 pounds. And then the water and some various other little bits and pieces make up the rest. Okay, so that is our snap question. Let's move on. So the big question, how happy are you with the results that you have in your life where you've got to now? Yes. And that's what we're essentially attempting to answer here. Okay, so let's move on. Start to get into some of this psychological stuff, and which is essentially how you think about it. So, how do you feel at losing the weight? How would you feel at something so important in your life, that's something that you want to do? Because I've often wondered why, for certain occasions in people's lives, i.e., a wedding coming up, people can achieve these things. But outside of those targeted times, we can really struggle. Well, being impatient. There's a lot of people that become very impatient about losing weight. So, and they forget that it took them 20 years to get to the size they are, and they expect within 30 days to lose all that weight. It's unrealistic. And so they demand instant results. And we can see that's coming from many different places. It comes from marketing, it comes from a lot of diet books, and a lot of lose weight quickly. And it sets up this unrealistic sense of what can be achieved. Now, we're organic beings, but as we know, just from a biological point of view, our body puts in lots of safeguards. It panics when we start to lose weight because we think we're going into famine mode. And so there's all these demands. So what we're going through is, can we retrain our thinking and to retrain our body to really start to take control of that? Now, the other thing that starts to happen, we stop at the first sign of failure. And that can show up in a couple of places. One, and I did a video on this just recently, which is all to do about goal setting. So this is not just to do with weight loss. Um, so something goes wrong. So we don't achieve the goal or in the time frame, and we become disappointed and we start to binge eat. The other thing that starts to happen is we give in and have a cookie. And as we have a cookie, we think, ah, I have failed. That's it for the day. And we then gorge ourselves for the rest of the day. We start to tell ourselves that we're different from everybody else. And what we're doing can't be working for us. And this is really sad. So let me come back to the video. So let's have a little change of scenery again. And let me bring this back over. There you go. Here I am. Okay. Oh. So the other thing is that we start to make excuses. And when we make excuses, that we hear things like, I'm big boned. It's in my genetics. Yes. And over the years, we've seen different things come out, such as, we are all wonderfully different. And it's important to accept that. But it doesn't matter about your genetics. Yes, it is difficult for some people to lose that weight and others it's easy to, but it's not an excuse. We hear I've tried everything. Yes, everything. Well, there are so many diets out there. I'm sure you haven't. So excuses get in our way. And then we hear I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm a man. I'm a woman. So we hear a range of excuses. And then there's the dieting game. And the dieting game is also known as the new shiny object. So we start something, we love it. And then 3 or 4 days later, or a week later, 3 weeks later, we jump onto a new diet and we start again. We start a new diet. And then we get attracted by another new shiny object. So we've got to be careful of that. The other thing that can happen with it, an obsession kicks in. There's this obsession about weighing ourselves, counting the calories. And what we're really looking for is a balance of being conscious of what we eat rather than just eating everything and taking back that control. And you hear that coming up when people start saying, well, there's some research that shows. So we're going to start to avoid those types of things. And we can't keep restarting. Right. So we have different types of eating. We have psychological types of eating. And if you do happen to like the PowerPoints, And who doesn't love PowerPoint? What you can do, you should see them down below, which you can just download and follow along. I just happen to like much more of a connection than using PowerPoint, but I will jump between the two. So what we talk about, what is psychological eating? Psychological eating is an unhealthy connection to a type of food or situation. And that could be overeating on chocolate, where people say they're addicted to chocolate, crisps, chips, you name it. It's unhealthy relationship with that food. And that can come from, you'll notice that if somebody passes a restaurant, maybe it's a fast food restaurant, and they feel compelled, they have to go in to eat that food. There's a psychological type of eating. And those types of things can come from many different places. For example, it could have come from maybe you had a parent or a guardian that the way that they showed you love was they brought you food, and it may have been from this particular restaurant. So it's that connection back. Wow, this eating thing is not as simple as it may seem on the surface. There's a lot of emotional baggages that come with all of this. And please do enter your questions. Please do engage at any time. So just do that as we're going along. I will have a more formal place at the end for answering questions. But I'm just going to carry on talking until I get some questions coming up through. Let me just double check that questions have come through. Okay, excellent. Then we have boredom eating. Boredom eating, we have to be careful of. It's amazing that we have time for boredom eating in this day and age. We have so much at our fingertips. We have all the latest music, latest movies, connected to people from all around the world. But one of the biggest challenges people have is this what's called boredom eating. And where that tends to come from is some sort of emptiness in somebody's life. And that could be as simple as you may have 10,000 friends on Facebook, but you don't have a, a close friend in real life. And the virtual life is wonderful. We're doing this virtually. But the one to one connection is so important. In fact, it's so important that I started off as a quote: the people you mix with will make the difference between your success or failure in any goal you want to achieve, let alone waist loss or weight loss. And so that could be this emptiness. It could be a relationship. It could be a career emptiness. And what this does, it leads to aimless eating. So finding some sort of purpose in your life. Now, as we go through these, if you're paying attention, I think you are, what you'll start to notice, this has given us the clues of what to do, which we will get to. But I think you can hear that. Some sort of purpose in life can make all the difference. How do you find that? A good question. We'll get that. We'll get there. So let's move on to stress eating. This is quite common one. You're in a stressful situation. Not got time to cook. You just grab something to eat real fast. And we kind of understand that one, I think. But celebration when we're eating is something to be wary of. It's not necessarily something to avoid, but there are times there's lots of celebrations. And what do I mean by celebration? Well, classic ones be like a birthday where, you notice you're probably going to eat something. We've all been at a place where somebody's on such a strict diet that they won't join in the celebration. The celebration is about bonding, about connection, building relationships. So it's important to gauge with those things. So when does it become dangerous? When there's a lot of celebrations, or maybe it's a cultural thing where they give food to show you their care and connection, and it's happening on weekly, if not a daily basis sometimes. Then we have to be careful. And the way you do that is you need to take control back, especially with cultural stuff. You have to be delicate with this. But what I have discovered is a conversation about what you're doing and how you'd like to be treated in those situations can make all the differences. So, so celebration is an important part of life. And I do suggest you join in with it, but be very wary with it. It is one of the things that can trigger out of control eating, especially the more we do this because we feel that excuse that we have to, we feel obliged to. Well, no, this is your journey. Take control, which is one of the key messages that we have going through this, which leads us to now thinking about purpose driven eating. So we're talking about eating to live, not live to eat. Yeah, I'm full of cliches. I know. So when you eat with purpose, you're going to choose what you put into your body. So if you are at celebration and it's a one-off occasion coming up, like a wedding, you can choose to eat certain foods there. Not everything, you're not going to gorge, but you're going to choose to eat your foods. And that all comes down to having a plan. So planning what you're going to eat in advance. And so things like not going shopping when you're eating. No, hang on, didn't say that. Not going shopping while you're hungry. Those things that we all know about. So it's not that we don't know how to do this stuff, how to lose weight. We know what to do. And we'll get to the point where what's going to make the difference for us. So being selective in what you eat. So if you do happen to want a cookie, eat a cookie. And why that's on my mind, just to let you know, my daughter cooked me a cookie this evening, and I wasn't going to say no to my 8-year-old. I just wasn't going to do it. So I had a cookie. So for some reason, cookies are on my mind. Could that be an addiction? I don't know. It's not. I'm just playing. So now the other thing just to keep in mind is some people say, well, what about moderation? If we just eat in moderation? No, because moderation is too wishy-washy. It's people's opinions. So what is moderate for one person may be buckets full of to somebody else. So avoid moderation. Decide up front a plan. Okay, so that's all the ways that we can fail, and there's lots of those. So let's get towards doing what would we put in its place? What would we need to do? How do we start to fight those cravings? That's where we're heading towards doing. And part of that is understanding the hunger levels. So let's flip back over to the the PowerPoints and look at the different hunger levels. Okay, hunger levels. Now, when we start to understand the hunger levels, it helps us to decide whether we're going to respond to this situation. Right, oh, there's technology working for me. Let's just do that. Yeah. So, first level is you start thinking about food. You start deciding that that sounds good to have something to eat. Now, sadly, at this point, people will start eating. Now, we're not actually hungry at this point. We're just starting to think about food. And one of the things you'll start to notice with this is about an hour and 20-25 minutes before you would normally eat, you will start to think about foods. And that's your body starting to prepare itself. So if you eat at this point, your body's not quite prepared to eat the food. It's a signal. Then we move to the next level. And that's kind of like, let's eat. And these are your thoughts about food increasing. Now, one of the things that we noticed here was this: it's more about habit than being hungry. So one of the things that we've done over the years is trained ourselves to eat at set points during the day. So the common one is 3 times a day. There's some weight builders who do it 6 times a day. Sometimes there's even 9 times a day. Sometimes 2 times a day. But we become hungry at set points. Now that's not necessarily hunger. Then that's habits. And this is what we're really seeing at this level. So when we become aware of that, you start to notice your thoughts about food increases, but it's normally more to do with habits than anything else. And that leads us into this I'm in the mood for. Now, this, you're not really hungry at this point. Now, I thought, how can I test this? So I thought, okay, then. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to test this idea, and I had to have a come up with a way to test it. So what I did was something called intermittent fasting for a month. Now I'm a big believer in testing everything, and so here's what I did: I ate one meal a day for a month. I know, how outrageous is that? Now, it's not that I'm suggesting that you do that. I'm just saying I like to experiment. Now, here's what I noticed. After the first couple of days of being very hungry, the kind of hunger disappeared. And I got hungry at the time I would have breakfast, and then that hunger would disappear. And I got hungry at around about 1 o'clock when I would have something to eat, but then the hunger would disappear. And after about the third week, that started to disappear as well. Now, that was a good indicator to me personally, on my own small test, that a lot of what we have that we call hunger is not that your body's actually really hungry, it's habitual eating. So, if we can stop that habitual eating and eat when we're actually hungry, we'd have to know when we are hungry, but a lot of it's habits. And if it is a habit, we can retrain ourselves. And we have a whole set of tools to help us retrain our hunger habits, our eating habits, and our thoughts. Now, this starts to become intriguing. Now, this is why you'll start to see we're looking at the hunger levels. Now, the next level is your stomach growling, sustained feeling of hunger. Strangely enough, this can still be habit. And so your stomach's going, I normally get food at a certain point during the day. Where is it? I normally get a certain quantity of food in a certain day. Where is it? Well, when it's not getting it, it protests, but that will subside. I just found out an interesting experiment. We become dependent on food. We do need to eat, by the way. We not want an unhealthy relationship to food. But experimenting and finding out what it is. That then leads us to the next level of where we get into real true hunger, and that's where you can get headaches and brain fog. Initially, for the first couple of days, I had that when I was doing the intermittent fasting. Now, I don't do that constantly, and I'm not recommending that you do it. It was an experiment to see, could I test where the hunger levels were true? And then as we move on for that, ought to know what it feels like to be full. So here are the levels of fullness, which we'll quickly just go through that. I'm sure you can read that for yourself. Lightly full. This is where you're okay. And we can get used to being lightly full or moderately full while we're on a diet or changing the way that we eat, which is probably a better way of saying that. That is going to serve us. And being satisfied is where we should stop eating. And then it moves us to number four, which is as Christmas is coming up, and everyone knows that at Christmas lunch and you overeat, you've got that stomach full and it hurts, and you can't take any more, and you want to sleep and you're drowsy. And that can lead to being uncomfortable and that feeling of sickness. Now, for me, and for some of the clients I've been working with, if we can get to a point where we're comfortable and okay, which is level ones and level twos are feeling full, then our energy level goes up, our focus goes up, and it makes all the difference to ourselves. Right. So, where do we start? I've been talking now for 40 minutes. So, let's look at some practical applications of something we can do straight away here. So, the first step is to map out your values. What is important to you? Values are what are important to you. The reason you do what you do is because of your values. The beliefs are the rules that you set up in place. So this is why we go. I've often wondered, why can somebody lose a lot of weight when they got maybe a wedding coming up? They're going to get married, and They put all this effort in because that day is so important to them. They're willing to change their behavior and thoughts. But then that's short term. So what we're then looking for is how can we align our values, beliefs, and purpose to be able to achieve what we want to achieve in our lives? So for me, I had two places that I explored. One was my work life. Like I said, I my energy levels were dipping. I needed a lot of energy to do what I was doing. And also, once I realized I'd put on all this weight, and it's amazing how it creeps up on you, was that I felt a little bit of a fraud, and didn't want to feel that way anymore. But that still wasn't enough to really kickstart it. So here's what I did. I looked at my life and discovered what is it in my life that will give me the energy and motivation? What are my values? And I didn't have to look too far. As I said, I got 5 children. One of my children, he has a range of challenges. He's got spina bifida, hydrocephalus, epilepsy, and that's just the 3 main things that he has challenges with. He has learning issues. Though he's 17 now, he's a wonderful lad at 17, but mentally he's around about 7. So here's my motivator for me was that I wanted to be around long enough to be there for him because he's never going to have an independent life. So, do I eat a cake or am I going to be there for my son? Wow. For me, it's a no brainer. I want to be there for my son. So, do I go for the short term, little bit of pleasure, followed by maybe some guilt? Or am I going to be the father I want to be? So, we can find something that resonate that strongly for you. That resonates for me. That's my life. So there's some work to do, digging down and finding out your values and beliefs and your purpose for long-term sustained happiness and hitting the weight that you want to be. Then looking at your habits. So start to map out your life. So when you eat, so map out all the times when you eat. And some people like to keep a diary with this. And this is some of the homework I've given to some of my clients I've worked with. And other times we'll sit there and map them out. And so map out the times you're feeling hungry and unusual cravings. So again, let's use me as a case study. Why not? So my case, so one of the couple of places I travel the world. I spend a lot of time traveling. So I identified my danger zones, and this was boredom eating, which we touched on earlier on in the webinar. This boredom eating, and what I discovered was that when I'm driving, I would stop and snack. Airports, airports is kind of like this zone where you're in no man's land, and there's nothing to do but wait, and essentially, in my case, eat. And hotel rooms. I spent a lot of time in hotel rooms. And so those were the times. So I had a look at those habits. And because I know how to change habits and have a whole batch of techniques for doing that, excuse me, it was easy for me to go ahead and make those changes. Uh, So, whoops, sorry. What's with, yes, and looking for those unusual cravings. So let's have a touch and see if there's any questions that come through. Okay. Hi there, Lynn. You've spoken about the importance of people around you supporting you. I've experienced close friends who sabotage me when I diet, e.g., go on one blow, won't hurt you. I find it hard to handle. Absolutely. And that's why the people around you are very important. So sit down, explain to them what they're going to do. They're almost bullying people into having food. And it's not that it is really bullying. So if we look at what's going on, what we see is this. Often people will celebrate and support you. But when you make changes in your life, people see that as a reflection on themselves. And when they see it reflected on themselves, they try to pull you back into that behavior. So What you need to do is be strong. And even if you have to walk away from that person for a period of time, which may be difficult to do if it's a partner, but I know your partner. I don't think Stan would do that to you. So I think you're talking about other people. And sometimes you got to make a decision. When you make changes in your life, that does include sometimes changing other people. If we took a step back from that, one of the things I sometimes say is, as we go through the NLP trainings that we run, is that the danger is you've selected to accelerate your growth. You want to grow as a person, and as you do that, you sometimes you change. You have to act differently, which means the people around you find it hard to respond to you. So, a couple of choices there. One is you help them understand, and if they're truly your friend, they will support you. And if you need to take a break from that until you reach your goals, then that's maybe what you need to do. But thanks for the question. And if you've got any more input on that, I'd be love to hear your response. So this makes sense. We're going to take back control. And it starts from what motivates us. And the motivation for why you're doing something needs to be strong enough to sustain you through the tough times so that you don't jump from one diet to another diet. They all do work. Some are probably healthier than others, but I'm not nutrition. So doing some research yourself can make all the difference. Now, we've covered a lot of information here, and just information on itself doesn't make a difference. So when I was thinking about sharing this, I thought, what could we do? What could we do to get together and make a difference? And and I know some of you work in professional guidance, and I wanted to share this and tailor the information I've come across and collected over the years so that we could help each other here. So I thought I'd put together, and I know some of you are sensing a bit of a sales pitch coming, and I'm going to admit there is a sales pitch coming, so that's okay. And we are going to have a question and answer session. So it's just a short introduction to a new workshop that we're offering early next year. And this is a very powerful interactive workshop. And we're going to limit the numbers on the workshop because we want you to have all the attention that you need. We just talked about how do you find your true motivation and how important that is. We're going to do it live in the workshop. We're going to dig down deep the superficial, conscious excuses type things that we always say and get down to those that deep motivation, that thing that will sustain you. We're going to learn a whole range of effective tools for changing our beliefs around food. And in so doing, one of the things I indicate is changing our beliefs around ourselves and on our lives and our success, taking back that control, changing our habits of ease and having a whole range of tools that we can use for ourselves. And I am aware some of you work with people around these issues, so you can be able to utilize these with other people as well. Now, again, it's support that's going to make the difference. I started off talking about the people, and Lynn had a question about the people around you, and it's going to make all the difference. So it's not a case of just turning up for this workshop and that's it. We're going to have a private Facebook group where I'm going to be on there daily supporting, and we want to get everybody connected and supporting each other as we go through this journey together. We're going to have a range of follow-up webinars like this. So once we've done the workshop, that's part of the process. But we want to follow up with questions, get people interaction, and using the full multimedia. Okay. So I've got a bonus to encourage you. This is going to be the first time we've run this workshop. And I've been doing this on a one-to-one basis with lots of clients. So a lot I'm looking for is to entice you onto this first workshop. So I've got a couple of bonuses. And one is we're going to create an online version of the workshop. It's not going to be available immediately, but when it is available, if you choose to attend the very first training, very first workshop, you're going to have free lifetime access to that. Okay, then. So, question becomes then maybe what is the cost around this? Okay, so our intention is to sell the live workshop for £495 once we get the momentum going, and the online version for £195. But this is the very first time. And really, I'm just going to look into cover my costs so that we can get some feedback and make sure that you're one of the first people to really experience and get the most from the training. £120. That includes VAT. And the second bonus, it'll be a one-to-one phone call by myself personally with you to start the journey. So make sure we get off on the right foot. I said we're going to limit the numbers. So we're limited to 32 people for the very first workshop. I'm going to have people there supporting. It's enough for us to create a group. So if you're interested, when is it going to be? Well, you should see a button below. So click the button. That takes you to a PayPal payment account where you'll once you've made that payment, PayPal will confirm that you have done that. You'll receive an email from myself. This is going to be probably if you do it tonight, that email will be tomorrow, where we arrange that one-to-one call. Well, welcome you on board, and we talk about what is that you personally need and want from the workshop, and what can you start to do right away. It's going to be on the 20th of January, so we're going to start the new year hitting the ground and running. It's going to be in a beautiful place called Chichester. This is where I live. If you've never been to Chichester, I highly recommend that you come down and visit us. It is an historic place. The Queen actually visited us today in Chichester, and it's a beautiful little place, and it's worth coming down to. And I'd also recommend maybe coming down for a couple of days. Though the workshop's just one day, come down and visit the cathedral we have here. We have the Festival Theatre, which is an absolutely stunning Greek theatre type place, and just a wonderful place to visit. And it's for the first 32. So, questions and answers. I'm going to go back to the live screening. We may have answered all your questions already, but please do go ahead. There you go. I'm back on here. So, if you've got any questions, you might be stunned of just how well we've done. Any questions about any of the topics we covered so far, or maybe there's some other topics around weight loss you would like just to explore? I'm going to be here for you. And go ahead and type those in now. And like I say, there is a small delay. Now, while you're doing that, I'm just going to go off camera because I need to blow my nose. As I said, I've got a bit of cold. I know my nose is starting to stream. I've done my nose has done so well up to this point, but do excuse me. And maybe I should have done that before I switched over to the live camera. Yeah, I know. So good. So I see a couple of people got the water for the body wash. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now there is sometimes quite a long delay between typing it in and for me to receive it. So we'll look out for those questions coming through. So go ahead and type those in. So let's kind of recap on what we've explored so far as you're typing in any questions or any comments that you would like to make as we start to come to the near the end of this webinar. We started with a quote: the people you mix with makes the difference. And you're here, you're mixing with a group of people who are all on the same page. Then we start to look at some of the challenges that we can face when we think about getting to our ideal weight. And we notice there's a whole range of those, including the dieting game, which a lot of people like to play. Then we started to talk about eating with purpose. And it's at that point we started to realize there is some things that we need to put in place that are all those emotional things like motivation and values, that purpose for living. for getting to that weight that we want. And I shared you with my story. We look at the hunger levels, and that indicated to us there was hunger. A majority of hunger is all to do with habits. I know. So then we thought, what could we do about it? And we discovered that once we start to map out our values, map out our beliefs and our purpose, yeah, in life, that's something that's bigger than just losing a bit of weight. And we notice that when we do that, we start to take control back of our lives. And when we can take control back of our life, that shows up in other areas of our life. And it really does make a difference. And then we talked about being able to take control of those habits. Excellent. And then there was this offer for doing this workshop, which is in the new year. Okay, so let's have a look. So if you can't get to Chichester, then what we're going to do is the online training. So my intention is I will start filming the online training in January. The reason being it's not going to be before my son's getting married out in Utah in Salt Lake City. So in a week or so's time, I'm flying all the family out to America and we're spending Christmas. So I'm bound to have a white Christmas. So the online, which will still have the Facebook support and the community and the webinars, which is the live interaction. Because though it's online and there's going to be a set of videos and everything with that, I do still find that it's best to have some sort of interaction like, and this is a way of doing that. So if you can't get to Chichester, and it's a real shame if you can't, because Chichester is just the most beautiful place to come and visit. It really is. Then there is that option as well, and that will be just after you'll start to hear about that within the new year. Great. And so far, that's oh there. So they say can't see the PP button. That means some technical information didn't work. So sorry, guys. So far, the technology has not been too bad tonight, but a vital part of that is to be able to connect with it. Give me a second. Let me see if there's anything I can do from this end. Uh, nope. Lynn, I'm going to have to email that to you. Maybe if you want to email me, I can send you the button. If not, I will email that out to everybody because I'm like that. I'm good to you guys like that. So I do apologize about that. That seems to be like a technical glitch. And yeah, that's excellent. Thank you ever so much for your time this evening. And if any questions occur to you in the meantime, please do let me know. And it's been a real pleasure. And like I say, it makes the difference that you're here. Keep in touch. Got any questions, you can email me at john@nlpcourses.com. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks ever so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll hopefully catch up with you soon. Take care then. Bye then. Excellent. Thank you. Bye. Great stuff. Thank you. It's always nice when people say goodbye. It's always good. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. Right. I shall turn off the screen now. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you soon.